Hi everyone, this is the lesson on rising action. You'll need to be watching this video and have this document in front of you. Let's get started. Our ATL skill for this unit and this lesson is create original works and ideas using existing works and ideas in new ways. Now let's review one reason why it's important to be able to create original works and ideas using existing works and ideas in new ways. And one reason is you can take elements of a previous idea and then use it to guide you in your own creation. Now we'll look at some of the guidelines for meeting this ATL skill. When you're looking at creating original works and ideas, remember to consider your own experiences or the experiences of someone you know as an inspiration. And when you're using existing works and ideas, you need to consider your own experiences or experiences of people you know as inspiration within the appropriate context. Now we're going to look at practicing creating the rising action of a story. The rising action of a story is the bulk of the plot. It's composed of a series of events that build on the conflict and increase the tension, sending the story racing to a dramatic climax. So how do you make the exposition of a story? And here are 5 steps. Oftentimes they can go in this order. Some authors, I'm sure, mix them up a little bit. Start with re-examining the conflict and the climax, where the conflict is resolved. That's what the climax is. 2, include background information. That will give the necessary information to the audience so that the conflict is clearly understood. Add some suspense, such as twists or surprises, by forcing your main character, also known as a protagonist, to make crucial decisions that send the story in new directions and reveal the character's strengths and flaws. It's always boring if the character's perfect. It adds conflict if there's some flaws. Also, consider adding new characters or settings to make the story more complex and intriguing. These are often called subplots. And a little note here, for the purpose of this specific assignment, remember that you need to include at least 3, but no more than 12 rising action events. Now let's look at the Greasy Say story. So the first step is to re-examine the conflict and climax, because you need to really understand those and feel comfortable with them in order to create the rising action. So if you recall, the internal conflict is Say is capable of being a good friend after living on her own for so long. And the external conflict is Say will have to participate in the reaping and possibly get sent to the Hunger Games to die, like her twin sister. And the climax is when these are resolved. For the internal conflict climax, it's when Adelpha's name gets drawn. Say volunteers. So that was helping her prove that she is capable of being a good friend. And the external conflict, the climax resolved it when it says that she doesn't qualify because of a rule that if you are an orphan, you can't participate in the reaping. And the external conflict here is whether or not she's going to have to participate in the reaping and possibly get sent to the Hunger Games to die. So after examining that, when Miss Granger and I created our prequel, we included background information, added suspense, and new characters. There were 9 rising action events. I will be reading them while you fill in the responses. At the first reaping for Say and Nayeli is selected and dies in the Hunger Game. This is some background information that's important for the audience to know. Say's parents decide to protect Say from future reapings by escaping to the woods to live until Say ages out of it. So this again is a lot of background information. Her parents die when they are attacked by trackerjackers. That adds a conflict. Say is trying to make it on her own, but is struggling with sadness over her parents' lack of food and loneliness. The next event, her sadness makes her feel like giving up and she almost dies, but a wolf pup licks her face. Say decides that she only needs her wolf and vows she will not befriend or care about people in order to stay strong. The next rising action event is 5 years pass, and Say finds Adelpha injured, a girl from District 12 who was gathering plants from the woods. The next event, while Adelpha heals from her injuries, they become friends. And if you remember, she vowed not to make friends with anyone. And the last rising action event before the climax is the girls argue because Say wants her to stay in the woods with her to be safe from the upcoming reaping, but Adelpha doesn't want her parents to be punished for not returning. Adelpha says, "You don't understand what it means to care about people." And that is the last rising action before the climax. The last step here is to fill in the blanks with the appropriate information from the rising action of the Hunger Games. So, review the plot diagram below for the Hunger Games and respond. Down here you have a copy of the plot diagram for the Hunger Games that we've reviewed in class. You need to look at this diagram in order to answer these 3 questions. What is the second rising action event? Is the first question. So you'll have to look down here and decide where would rising action be and what would be the second event. The second question is Katniss getting fixed by the Capitol part of the rising action? And you'll write yes or no. And then the last one is the final showdown at the cornucopia part of the rising action? And you will write yes or no. Once you've completed this and turned it in, you can begin working on the mastery check. Good luck!